All right. We are here live with Martin Mayer. It's nice to have you on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
You're a great man at the piano.
Oh, stop.
Yeah.
No, go on.
Okay. All right. You're really average at
I got to keep practicing those skills just a little bit. It's like 1, 2, 3.
Great to have you on the podcast. And I was great. We kind of connected, and I've been looking over all your stuff. And I have to really say you do a really great job at your promotional work, your website, all that stuff. And I think if you're a musician, you should go look at what you do because it's important. I think it's one of those things that a lot of people fail at is, it's that thing where most people just go right to a website and check somebody out now.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't look really great, then you judge it right away. Automatically you can judge it. And there's still a lot of bad websites out there. But you've done a good job. How important it is to have really great pictures. That makes a difference. Your electronic press kit was great. Kind of gives you every option that you could ever imagine. And so yeah, kudos on doing. Do you look after that yourself, or do you have someone do that?
I do. It's something that I used to do professionally before I went full-time into music. So, I now preach to myself what I used to preach to clients, which is, make sure that everything is succinct across, Instagram and Facebook and your website, and everything has that same sort of polished look to it. So I don't miss doing graphic and web for other people.
Yeah.
But I know enough about it to be like, okay, there's a certain look that, my stuff tends to have and has always had for years. And, I very much appreciate the compliment, because it is a lot of work, and you want to make sure that, in a sea of when journalists or podcasters such as yourselves are getting, hey, I'd love to be your guest, here's my website. You want to make sure that it's professional, that it's synced. And, I love the way the stuff looks. I've been fortunate to be surrounded by, fantastic photographers. Kevin Clark and his team did an amazing job on those photos, and just having great material is a really great starting point. So having great photos that you can start with makes building a website and adding your story so much easier.
Yeah. And it's amazing. Even been doing this podcast, and, you always ask for promo pictures or 2 or 3, because depending on where you post it, sometimes you want something that's more vertical, something you need something more horizontal. First of all, there's usually hardly ever an option for that. And it's tough with a lot of people just even having one decent picture. Yeah. And I think it's got to be, you're thinking nowadays that you'd have 1 million shots available, but it's still something that a lot of people pass up on and don't spend the money. And you don't need 100 pictures. You just need a few good ones. And that can last a long time. If it's good, I don't mind seeing it all over the place if it's the same picture. But sometimes if you only have a few and they're just kind of okay, those are the ones you get tired of really, really quickly.
Yeah, no, a great photo is tantamount to, virtually anything and everything that you do. That's what it starts with, because that's what people are going to see and look at even before they, scroll down to your bio or listen to your music. It's what is that first image that, captures their attention. It has to, for me, I felt that it has to convey some kind of story of who I am or what I'm trying to do, so that it's like, oh, this is interesting, right? And I want to read more about this, and then listen, to the music myself. Back in the early days, and you can see some of it, behind me. It was very back then I had hair, that was very different. Now I've gone for the, the dark rimmed glasses and the shaved head look, and so
you embraced it.
Well, I did. I mean, it's been, I shaved my head 12 years ago, And I don't miss any of it. Now I can make those jokes about, going outside and it's raining. It's like, oh, it's gonna mess up my skin,
Yeah.
But back then it was all just very, I had shirts from the Gap or whatever, sort of just still clean and crisp. But I was 20 years old, and it didn't really have any sort of a punch or whatnot to it. A couple of years ago, I had a photo shoot with a beautiful Fazioli red grand piano, and I wore a blue suit with it. And the way that it was photographed, the piano pops, but the suit and the color of it brings attention to me that isn't a way of, hey, look at me, right? The ones that I have now with the white piano and the blue suit that has, those floral patterns on it.
Yeah.
Again, it's the piano is intended to be the star. I'm just the guy that is creating the music with it. So it's, those pictures are important. I'm really glad that you brought that up, because if I was gonna say anything to any sort of independent artist or person that is coming up, the music is great, but your image is your brand, and that is what people are gonna take away, remember, and see before they even read about you or before they look at your music.
Yeah.
Or listen to your music, rather.
I think even nowadays, with a lot of people doing live little Instagram stories and all those things, you still have to think about your framing, your your composition. Is the lighting okay? And sometimes you think those little things go by really quick. You don't think about it, but when you've got 100 of them, and it adds up. I mean, it just keeps. It's still a part of your brand and the way you look. And you see the ones who do it really well. It's seamless. I mean, it just all of a sudden it just makes it look that much more pro. But some people just don't have an eye for it, which I totally understand that too. You always see people taking pictures and they frame it, and then your head stops here and it's empty from all the way up, right? And they just don't see that. And I understand. I mean, it's not everyone's going to have an eye for that, but I think there's got to be some good, simple courses out there that kind of just say, here's the best way. Make sure that you fill the frame, unless you're being, super artistic or something. And there's just a few simple things. And the iPhones and that, they're so great. I mean, you can,
Oh, totally.
Yeah. Just do a little shadowing around the outside, fix a couple little things, and away you go. It's great.
Yeah.
That's
And they've got apps now where it's just like, beautify your face and, whatever, and that type of thing. It's, photos can be great and should be great. But then again, I've seen stuff where people don't have the best photos, and you look at it and go, is that intentional? Because it kind of looks like it's artistic with what they're doing. It sort of plays with that border of like, is this intentional or is it artistic?
Yeah.
And that kind of, that's a different type of conversation.
Yeah. And some people are just photogenic, right? There's something about them that no matter what light they're in or what, if they got a lot of cool tattoos or, have that real vibe. I mean, you can go with a crappier picture because there's so much character within the person, right?
It took 2 hours this morning just to look this pale and this even of a paleness.
I'll fix that in post. So, obviously, you're a very cool piano player, and how would you describe your style of music? Because you're not really a classical guy. I mean, I'm sure you do that to some extent or have. You're not a rock and roll guy. You're not really a jazzer. But what would you describe your style?
I am every single record store stockist's worst nightmare, because they don't know where to pigeonhole me in terms of where does this go? Does it go into new age? Does it go into neoclassical? Does it go into classical crossover? I'm classically trained. I did jazz training. I would say the best description would be instrumental fusion. because it's a fusion of different styles. So the classical training gave me the chops to play whatever I need to. The jazz and the pop stuff, that gives me sort of more of the interpretational feeling that that you put into stuff that that you don't get from classical. Not to say that there isn't expressive stuff in classical music, but it's very different. When I look at a piece of classical music, I look at it and go, okay, this is how Beethoven intended it. This is how it's been played multiple times. Why should I look at that or play it any differently? If I look at something like a song by Adele, changing the key brings out a completely different tonal kind of sound from the piano. The production that goes behind it, whether it has strings or whether it has a muted trumpet or something like that, completely changes the characteristic of a song. There's not so much that you can do with classical music in that respect, unless you're going, hooked on classics with, the disco track in the background.
Yeah.
But even then, it still has that classical sound to it. So for me, when somebody says, what is your genre? My answer immediately is instrumental fusion, because I feel like I fuse different elements of styles that I love to play and styles that I've learned with the type of music that I write and that I perform. And I bring that into, if I'm playing, popular pieces. I do a cover of the Pirates of the Caribbean theme, and I do that on guitar, and I go and I play it in the audience.
Yeah.
And so that is very different than the guy that, 2 minutes ago played a song that brings out my classical chops. And I will forever be grateful to my piano teacher for encouraging me as in, go and practice this, because this is what your parents are paying for.
Yeah.
For doing the stuff like, scales and arpeggios and all that sort of stuff, because back then I didn't want to do it. I don't know anybody who does want to practice, even now as a professional musician. It's like, okay, gotta keep up the technique. But what I learned back then and all that stuff gave me the base and the ground for being able to play stuff that I look at and I go, okay, I still have to learn to get this under my fingers, but once I have it there, I can move with it. So that's sort of my long-winded answer to your short question.
Yeah, no, it's a very cool style, and it's kind of neat because it's very. I wouldn't, and don't take this wrong way at all. It's very non-offensive, So
Yeah.
if you're a classical fan, you're going to enjoy it. But if you don't like classical, if that's not your thing, you could see you and hear you do your thing, and you'd be like, yeah, I can get into that because it's not far one way or far the other. So, yeah.
That's one of the things that I really love about two cellos. It's a classical instrument, and they played with a massive amount of emotion, to the point where you can, when they play, you can hear them. They breathe in as they play, and that is such an immensely personal characteristic to have on a performance or on a recording. But they pair that with, electronic stuff underneath, right? And so composers that I've always loved is a guy like Danny Elfman. You've got the classical traditional orchestra with, the sort of driving beat underneath. Hans Zimmer revolutionized that with, the Batman stuff. And then, I take the classical sort of, symphony sound from John Williams. And so all of a sudden, you take all of these sort of pieces and you float a beautiful piano sound on top of that. And that's the sound.
Yeah. What do you have at home as far as piano goes?
So I've got Roland has been my go-to for as long as, I've been studying music.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of Elise's guitars and a Roland guitar on my wall over there, signed by John Tesh.
Cool.
Which is really cool, because he's somebody that inspired me back when he did the Live at Red Rocks PBS special.
Yeah.
And I had a chance to meet him about a year and a half ago, and just super great guy, And I play Fazioli grand pianos when I perform. They're just amazing pianos. They have something about that. I was always a fan of Yamaha, and I still am.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I always found is that with any piano, when it's brand new and you sit down at it, you always have to break it in.
Yeah.
It's like a shoe, right? The thing with Fazioli, the minute that you sit down at it, it has that feeling of, this has been around and under my hands for years. It has that broken in feeling. Is it's such a disservice of a description to the piano, because that's not what it is. It's not a broken piano.
Yeah.
But that's what it feels like. It just has that, like a warm knife through butter. It's just, they're amazing pianos, and any chance that I get to play them, I do.
Probably hard to find in Moose Jaw. If you're in Saskatchewan. Tough on the rider.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean,
I guess most places, if you're playing a performing arts center, they're going to have their dedicated grand piano that's in-house.
The one that's been sitting in the corner and collecting dust under the cover for.
Yeah, they pull out every once in a while.
Yeah.
I've toured with a lot of piano shows or piano forward shows. Really good friend of mine, Jim Witter, has a show called The Piano Men, and it's the music of Billy Joel and Elton John. So I've toured and did big orchestra shows all over North America with him as the front of house guy. And man, I tell you, and you've probably experienced it over and over again, there's no one piano the same, man. And they're all over the place. And if you get a good one, it is rare. I mean, it's very rare. And then I've toured quite a bit with Frank Mills. You must know Frank Mills, Music Box Dancer.
I know, yeah, and that's really cool, because Music Box Dancer was one of the first sort of neoclassical pieces that I learned that sort of helped me step out of that. His stuff is really cool. I saw that you went on tour with him, and my other favorite of his is Storm Warning.
Oh yeah.
Which I think is, something that I'm like, well, I want to hear that song sort of more often.
Yeah. Yeah. And it, great guy. He's super nice. We're friends. And it's funny when touring that show, the last couple of times I went out with that, because it was basically him and he's either playing solo or playing second half. We did a lot of songs with tracks, playing along from his new album and stuff. But man, some of these pianos were just, there's nothing much you can do. You try miking every single different way, and it's difficult. It's a real difficult thing. And if it's possible, most of the time I would prefer to travel with an empty shell and slide in an electric piano, because it's going to be, solid all the time. That's why Elton John does it. I mean, it's that sound every single time you get there. It's always going to be the same. But sometimes you luck out and have really great pianos, and then it's a really wonderful night. You can tell as a guy that sits back and mixing the show or whatever, when you see someone on a really good piano, you can feel how much better the show is. Yeah. Everything is just way better. It's like anything. If you had crappy monitors, or you have a bad guitar or a bad amp or something, it's just not very inspiring to play. And I think piano is the one instrument that's the worst for that. If you don't have a great one, it's not very inspiring.
Well, I would say I've been a bit spoiled in terms of the pianos that I've gotten to play on. My market definitely isn't Canada or the US. My main market has been China and other places in Asia. And the last tour that I did in China was 20 cities in 27 days in the fall of 2019. And I got to tell you, man, these theaters and performing centers, almost every single one of them, 9-foot Steinway or Fazioli, or there was the odd one that had a local brand, and you sit down and play it, and like, this feels like it feels like a Steinway, so it must be an off brand of whatever. But there I think there was only one piano that I was like, okay, so this is the show to, not to get through, but it was a show to, okay, I got to work a little harder to, coax out of the piano what I need to. Here, I've been fortunate that, when I play locally in Vancouver, Showcase Pianos, which is the local Fazioli dealer, we have an agreement that anytime that I do a show and I need a piano, they just provide one.
Yeah.
And any of the other shows that I've done, I've mounted myself. So, I'll be like, okay, what do you have in stock? And if somebody says, yeah, we've got a Yamaha 9-foot, great. I know it's going to be well cared for because they're not cheap, instruments to keep or to maintain. Microphones make a huge difference. So do, in-ear monitors. My show now is very much like what you described with Frank in the second half. It's me at a 9-foot grand piano, backing tracks, visuals behind me, Canadian scenics or images that go with a song, and me, grand piano, a couple of DPA mics, closed piano, backing tracks, in-ear monitors. Everything is set, and I just pop in the same microphones. I got everything level set, and the guy in the house just, puts up the 2 stereo channels and that's it.
Yeah.
But it was very different when I was starting out. The DPA microphones, I don't know that they weren't around back then as much as I probably didn't know about them. But my live concert that I did back in '99, that I self-funded to the tune of $35,000 because I went, hey, I gotta do something to get noticed with my non-offensive music.
Yeah.
Living.
I never let that one down.
How do you describe your music? Non-offensive. Brackets, Darren Walters.
You can put that right on your website.
John Touch calls him the most amazing piano player that he knows. Darren Walters calls his music non-offensive.
Well, you know what? Nowadays, that's probably a really good handle to have.
Well, it is. And I mean, it's, there's people that have come to my shows that I see people in the audience, and now it's such a bigger blend of anybody and everybody. When I was starting out, it was my parents and their type of age group, or people that I went to college or university with that wanted to come and support me. Now it's anybody from kids that are 8 or 9 that are studying piano through all the way to grandma and grandpa and everything in between. I was doing a show once, and there was this group of punk rockers, like 10 of them that came and went, and they sat in the second row, and they're like, they're like smiling, they're having a great time, they're clapping after every single song, and then completely lost their mind when I strap on the red key car and go into the audience. They're like, oh yeah, this is cool. So it's definitely changed a lot. But going back to piano mics and piano sounds, that first show that I did, which for me came after reading in I think it was Taxi magazine or Keyboard magazine or something like that, is if you're sitting on the couch waiting for a record company to come and find you, you're going to be an old man, covered in Cheerios by the time it happens. Mm-hmm. And having seen, Tattoo, Red Rocks, and Yanni did live at Acropolis, I got to do something that is sort of going to raise my profile a bit. So the whole idea was like, I'm 19, I'm going to try to do one of these PBS specials in Edmonton.
Yeah.
No idea how to produce any of it. All I knew was I'd written, a lot of songs since I was 15, in that sort of style. I knew that I wanted an orchestra, I knew that I wanted to record it, and I knew that I wanted to film it. So, 50% of that worked out. The concert was great, and the recording was great. The video didn't work. It was theater lighting, which back in '99, before we had HD and 4K and all that sort of stuff, the setup that you have behind you with those beautiful lights, that wouldn't track well on an SD camera.
Yeah.
It didn't show well. But the recording, we went into the studio and it's like, okay, we got to retrack some of these strings, which I think a lot of people probably don't realize, that when there's a live album, unless it's meticulously and perfectly recorded, there's going to be some overdubs. the guitar player was out of tune, or something happened, or the strings were too far ahead or whatever. And so we had some work to do in order to fix some of that stuff, but the record ended up sounding great. And how the stuff happened with China is that I created this record and did this concert in order to be recognized in Canada and in North America.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen. I put it up on my website. 6 months later, I get an email from this performing arts agency in China that says, "Hey, we found your non-offensive music. We
they probably
liked
said
it.
that, right?
Yeah. We like, how this sounds. We'd love to invite you on a 16 city, 6-week national concert tour of China at 20. I'd never been anywhere. I'd mounted this show. I played on TV a couple of times. I played my dad's dance band, Fridays, Saturdays at the Legion or the local, sort of community center for people. That was how I got my stage performance chops. Yeah. So out of this, $35,000 risk came this national concert tour that was just insane. I mean, there were places where it was with a police escort or getting mobbed for autographs. And I've been doing, concerts there for the past 20 years, and there's still places where I can't go without the ball cap or the sunglasses, because when they do these tours, it's just, there's places that I walk to where there's massive billboards of, promoting my music or promoting my show. And it's really cool. And yet here I go to Starbucks and they're like, "So what's the name that I can put on your order?" Yeah. It's just so completely night and day.
It's funny because Frank Mills too is popular over there. And that market tends to really like that style of music, right? It's really popular. And I know Frank used to have, we'd be on tour and he'd have people fly from Asia all over the place just to see him. We'd be in like Belleville, Ontario. All of a sudden, here comes, a couple of his fans that flew halfway around the world to see 1 or 2 shows and fly all the way home again. And big fans. So it's a different marketplace there for sure. It's way different than here. And it's great that you've found that success there, that, because that builds really for everything else too, right? It's always hard to know that, being a star in Canada or United States, it's a tough market to build, but you become really famous somewhere else. That just brings all that more extra credit back to you, here, which really, really helps a lot.
It's it's very night and day. And when you talk about those fans, I mean, you don't know, who's going to pop up where. One of my favorite stories is a couple of years ago when my mom was visiting here in Vancouver. I wanted to treat her to, some kind of new outfit or whatever. She was always one of those ones that, she really didn't like to spend money on herself.
Yeah.
And so when she came out, we went to Oak Ridge Mall and just walked into one of these boutique stores, and she was looking at a couple of things. And just pick out whatever you want. And this lovely sales lady comes over and she's like, can I help you find something? And I was like, I think, my mom's just browsing. And she looks at me and she goes, you could just see her eyes opening up a bit. She's like, have we met before? You look familiar. And I said, I don't know. Well, it's the first time that I'm in the store. And you can just see something in her head clicking. She's like, I know. She's like, what do you do? What's your profession? I said, I'm a piano player. She literally goes like this. And almost like tries not to scream. And she's like, excuse me, sorry, runs away. And she starts, saying something in Chinese to one of the other workers, and goes to the back, comes back with her purse and pulls out 3 of my CDs.
Wow.
And she had seen me in concert in Beijing with her mom.
Oh, cool.
Maybe a year before that.
Yeah.
And can I get your autograph? Can I get a photo? And, this, that, and the other thing. It's just, It's really cool when that happens, because you can just see the genuine connection that you have with these people, and that's one of the things that I love about the audience is that when you come out, it's they're there to see you. They're there to see a piano show. Here, people will come for whatever reason. They have season tickets. A friend invited them. Their girlfriend dragged them to a concert. At festivals, it's you happen to be in a lineup, and people will either dig it or it doesn't work. Somebody said to me a couple of weeks ago, "We'd love to have you as part of our festival, but the last time that we had an instrumental group, they said it was a great jazz orchestra, but we want songs that we can sing along to." Yeah. Even though they were playing, Benny Goodman stuff and that type of thing.
Yeah, I think an instrumental show has to be presented in the right location as well. You can't throw it up. In most cases, you can't throw it up on a festival stage or, outdoor venues are harder. But, a beautiful performing arts center where everyone's really engaged, it's perfect. I mean, that's the perfect spot. And the cool thing with instrumental music, not having any lyrics, there's no singer to kind of tell the story, that, obviously the music tells the story. You have to figure out a way to evoke that type of emotion from your playing. So your playing ends up being very emotional, very, something you just grabs your attention if you're really good at it. And I find that when you listen to instrumental music, because I used to listen to a lot when I was younger too. I was a big David Foster fan when I was younger, and so I used to listen to all of his instrumental stuff and the soundtrack stuff. I used to be a big soundtrack movie fan too. And I think what happens from that is you derive your own emotions and your own stories from the song that's being played. So lyrically, a song could be telling you something, and you might relate to it or you might not relate to it. But if an instrumental song was written well and there's that emotion there, you're just able to bring up whatever feelings you have inside that gives you that emotion. There's, someone might be thinking of, their dad or their mom, or someone might be thinking of an old boyfriend, an old girlfriend, or it could be whatever, those feelings, and it'll be different for everybody. And that's what's cool about instrumental music, is that it can bring something completely different to every single person that's watching a show. And that opens up a wider range of people to listen to it, because it's just something that, if it grabs you, it's really important. I think a lot of those, people like Jesse Cook and a lot of instrumental type groups, they really have massive real strong followings, right? It's a different than singers. You're going to see a country show and you really like the beer drinking song, and it's like, it's all about having a good time. But the fans that would probably be your fans, they're really deep-hearted, loyal fans, way different than you get with lots of other styles of music. Does that resonate with you? Does that make sense?
I think it does. I mean, specifically in Asia, piano is king there, like, guitar is here.
Yeah.
There is something about that sort of inherent connection to that instrument. The audiences are sometimes they're different in terms of how they react to things. It's different if you're playing in a theater as opposed to a concert hall. Yeah. Even though, in a concert hall, they have, the venues in China are just amazing. They're some of the most amazing places that I've played. And, LED walls that are 90 feet where, like the graphics and the videos just look amazing. Yeah. When you put up something that looks like a set piece, it actually looks like, a physical set piece on that screen, whereas it doesn't really have that same punch with with a projector and on a cyc wall.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
But yeah,
I've done that a million times.
But in a concert hall, it's you come out and it's very appropriate sort of clapping. But what I found is that when I start playing one of their songs, one of their heritage folk songs that grandma sang in school and learned it or taught it to her kids, and it's passed down through the generation, there is all of a sudden that same sort of like, he knows this song. How does he know this song? Only we know this song because it's part of our heritage.
Yeah.
It completely changes the interaction or reaction with an audience. And when you talk about songs that, or music that has lyrics whereas instrumental doesn't, even when you're playing a song that has lyrics to it, for example, I Dreamed a Dream from Les Mis, when I played that instrumentally at a show that I did here locally, the story that I played with that was a picture of me back when I was 11, 12 years old, a corduroy suit with the crooked bow tie at a Roland digital piano. And the story had to do with somebody that I had reconnected with a couple of years ago before that concert, somebody that used to bully me in school. And, as a piano kid growing up in Edmonton where people are playing hockey and I'm playing, inside learning, Frank Millis Music Box Dancer, it's a very kind of like, oh, Martin's playing piano, he's such a loser. When I had the chance to meet this bully who had reached out and said, I'm really, really sorry for, how I teased you and made school difficult and all that sort of stuff. I went through my own sort of process with that. What I decided to do for that portion of the show was to say, here's the picture of me practicing, and this is the song that goes along with it. And even though I Have a Dream has lyrics to it, all of a sudden the music has a different story, because just like you said, somebody's in the audience, they go, oh yeah, I remember when I was affected by this situation or that type of thing. And, sometimes you look over and you see people and they have their eyes closed and you think to yourself, are they sleeping? But most of the time, they're not. What they're doing is they're taking in the emotion and they're attaching it to their own emotion. They're finding, like you said, that story of, this song makes me feel this way. So even though that song has lyrics to it, they're still interpreting it a different way. When I write a song called Love Exceeds Distance, I know exactly what the story is behind that. But when I play it and I tell people this is the name of the song, they're able to interpret it, in a different way. And it sounds different when I played solo piano, and it sounds different if I played with a string orchestra or if I played with, a Bob James type of, jazz beat type of thing behind it. I've written songs with lyrics to them. I don't sing them because, I'm a terrible singer. And, that would very quickly make my non-offensive music very offensive. I promise I promise eventually, I'll let it go. It's just, but one of the things that I was going to ask you is, since we're talking about that, you'd asked me before about how I describe my music. How does somebody like Frank Millis describe his?
I don't know if he does.
You've worked with him a lot. How would you describe it?
Actually, when I heard your music, it reminded me very much of Frank. Like, it felt like a younger, hipper, cooler, more modern version of Frank Mills, if that makes sense. There was similarities for sure that I heard. That was the first thing I thought of when I listened to your songs, and maybe because I'm really familiar with Frank as well. Mm-hmm. But it drew me there right away. It's like, oh, this really feels like you're the only person I felt that I've heard that sounds like Frank myself. I'm sure there's other people out there that do, but yeah, that's the first thing I thought of. Mm-hmm. but
I'll take that as a compliment.
it is.
Hopefully not a disservice to Mr. Mills if he's.
Oh no,
if he
not at all.
listens to my-
Yeah, and I'm actually very interested to. I'll reach out and I'll send him. His wife listens to my podcast all the time. So hi, Brenda. And so she'll probably play this for him, and I'll send your information that way. So maybe I can get you guys to touch base, because
that'd be great.
yeah, he's a super nice guy, like really, 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 really nice guy. And he's done very, very well with Music Box Dancer. That song still blows my mind, how, worldwide, that was a big, big song, and print music for that was big. And, really his career was that song. He had success in other ones, but nothing like Music Box Dancer. And it's interesting, if you have any of your fans listen to this, go back and listen to the Frank Mills podcast I did on my site, because there's some really interesting stories on how that song just kind of blew up out of nowhere, and he became just this massive star, kind of, overnight almost. So but yeah,
well, the thing that would be I'd be curious to ask him is if he thinks that same type of success and what it had back then, if we put him into the time frame of now, with what radio is and isn't, and what Spotify is and isn't, if it would have the same, if it would have the same type of success. That's one thing that I'm sort of itching to ask John Tesh the next time that I'm on a call with him, is like, if you had to do Red Rocks again now, would it have the same impact? Because there was sort of that era of, the mid 80s to the early 2000s where, like you said, David Foster, Frank Mills, Yanni, John Tesh, those were the big sort of new age guys that, those were the the piano guys of the day.
Yeah.
I know that Yanni's still touring, and I think he did like a 25-year anniversary of the Live Acropolis tour. And I know that he plays in Asia as well. And another fellow that you probably know the name of, Richard Clayderman.
I know that name.
His Ballade pour Adeline 40 years ago, in 1976, with the blonde hair and the blue eyes and the suave, moving around the piano. And I still remember days where, when you talk about sheet music for Frank Mills or Music Box Dancer, you'd see the ads on TV. It's like, the Frank Mills collection, buy the cassette and get the sheet music for free, call now, no COD. And back then I remember thinking to myself, what is COD? They never, they never really explained it. It's like, call 1-800 blah, blah, blah. And, plus shipping and handling, no COD. It's funny though. That's the thing that I remember about that. But when was the last time that you were watching TV and you saw an ad for anything like that? I mean, there's Home Shopping Network and there's QVC, and those things are still out there and they still work for those markets. But I think the last thing that I probably saw that was anything music related that isn't, American Idol or The Voice or anything like that was, some kind of promo for a CTV show, and, then 15-second stinger, Shawn Mendes, in Wonder, available now. That's it. You don't see any of these big flashy, buy the cassette and you'll get the sheet music for free. Call now. Repeating the number 300 times.
Yeah, I mean, because you can just Google and find it in 2 seconds. I think the internet era has just really changed all of that. But yeah, that was, just remember all that stuff that used to be a big deal. I know Frank, last time we went on the road, I guess it's 2-3 years now. We still did very well with his merch and his records and his book and stuff. I mean, people buy that stuff up like crazy, but partially because you just can't find it anywhere. I mean, you just can't go to H&M or, I mean, which really doesn't exist anymore. There's no place to buy that.
Sorry, HMN, or
sorry,
HMV.
HMV. Sorry, I'm thinking of the clothing store. Jeez,
I was thinking
wouldn't
Frank
find it there
Mills
either.
Merchandise at H&M. That's a cool
I like some
idea.
socks and a Frank Mills CD, please. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting, you know, nowadays. I think there's a big market for any form of instrumental music. It's just getting it there, and it's just a harder push, right? Because you don't have as much of the airplay behind you, and you know, getting that big hit is it's hard. And most of those people usually have one really big hit, right? There's usually that one that just completely launched their career, because you don't usually have multiple instrumental hits. But just getting that one can really can change your life. But yeah, I mean, Frank still, you know, he has a, you know, loyal fan base, and you know, people just love seeing him still now. And
that's great.
Yeah, it's really, really, really great. I wanted to circle back because I know when you're talking about live, and I wanted to ask you too, because when you're setting up your piano, you mentioned you have your DPA microphones. That's what I use live too. Stereo pair of DPAs. Which ones do you use? You know the model numbers?
I think it's the 4099s. They're the ones with the little magnet mount that just goes right onto the soundboard.
Yeah, I use the 4050s, which just looks like you unscrewed the capsule off the pencil microphone.
Okay.
And there's just the capsule with a little wire coming out of it, and I've got these little shock mount things that they sit in, and they're basically attached to like a clip-on mic clip, and you can just mount them and mount anywhere you want on the piano, and it comes with this little mount for the microphones, which, you know, those two little rubber pieces and little mic clip things were like $450 for the pair. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have really made them for $5. But they work good. Same thing, lid closed and call it a day. So, but a lot of piano players too just like to have that lid open. But if you can get, like you said, in-ears or a really nice set of monitors that you can get really good sound, and that's the best way to get some volume happening.
Yeah, it's I mean, I use the same Sennheisers that I'm listening to right now. The DPA stuff has been great. The other ones that I'd consider was I think Earthworks.
Yep.
But you know, I can't justify the price tag for it's like I think they're like $5,000 or something like that. Yeah. I mean, the DPAs sound amazing. You know, they've got a magnetic clip that, you know, you virtually can put it anywhere, you know, in the piano that you want. And it's always been lid closed for me. I think the thing that surprises people the most, probably more so the tech staff than the audience, is that when I come into a space and the piano setup, it's always on the left-hand side, so where the bell faces toward the audience. Yeah, I'm the guy that plays on the other side, so you know, I'll play like Billy Joel does as opposed to Elton John. And so when they have this all set up, and you know, they started prepping the lights, even though and you know this, you know, you send the writer and you send the stage plot and everything like that, and it shows where it's supposed to go, and then you get there and it's like, nope, you got to turn the piano around. You know, all of a sudden you've got you know, 7 people that are coming out with white gloves that are, you know, releasing the wheels and turning around a $250,000 instrument. You know, that they then have to open and let you put in your microphones, and they're being very cautious about making sure that that you don't do any of that, or do anything that might wreck that instrument. Whereas some of the places that you and I talked about before, where it's like, you know, some community theater and wherever. It's like, yeah, you know, you can just move it around, you know, whichever way that you want. But the in-ears makes just such a huge difference in terms of feeling like you're part of the music, that the music is, you know, is here, as opposed to, you know, the minute that you move back like this, you know, all of a sudden you're missing that. Yeah. You're missing that field. Yeah. I don't know where I was going with that.
No.
We were talking about mics. Yeah.
No, it's funny because you mentioned I run into the same thing with tech guys, and, you know, I have very detailed stage plots and all that. I'm sure you do too. You know, exact placement and everything. And probably 50% of the time you come and they have it set up. Like you said, I like the same direction you do. And, you know, they'd have it spun around. You know, they'd have their microphones on it, even though I'd advanced it and talked to the tech crew and audio guy and saying, yeah, I'm bringing my own TPAs and stuff. They all think they've got the best microphones for the piano. And it's like, no. And then I'll say, well, we can A/B them if you want. You leave them in, and I'll put mine in. And then I'll be like, but we need to close the lid. And they're like, they just look at you like you're completely insane. And then we go out and turn up my microphones, and they'll turn up theirs. And I was like, wow, yeah, I guess yours do sound better.
Yeah.
And
I remember once doing a gig where I said, similar to, you know, exactly what we're talking about now. But this was before I had my own sort of rig that I take with me. And, you know, they insisted on having the piano on the other side. And so I said, fine, you know, it doesn't matter to me. It was part of a gala. So I was one of, you know, multiple performers. And so the piano would, you know, go in and then come out type of thing. But I said, I'm playing it with the lid closed, you know, just no ifs, ands, or buts about it, because it has to be, you know, it has to be a controlled sound, because otherwise with all the other stuff going on, it's just going to get lost. And the guy said, okay, fine. You know, we've got a couple of good mics that we can use for this. And the ones that they brought out were the AKGs, the ones with the gold on the one side and the black on the other.
414s, yeah.
Yeah. And I still can't believe that this happened. I don't know. Well, it wasn't my piano, and it wasn't my show or my microphones. But basically what they did was they took 2 pieces of black duct tape, put the 2 microphones in the middle, and strung the duct tape across the, you know, the soundboard, other piece on top, and then closed the lid. And I went, okay, I'm glad that's not my piano, because you would never in a million years get close with that. But the whole left right side thing is really funny. Actually, I got a funny story about that. When I met John Tesh for the first time, I was on tour in China, and I got his newsletter, and they said, yeah, John's playing in Seattle. And I'm like, sure, okay, well, that's cool. You know, I'm an hour and a half drive away. So I've been a huge fan of his for years, and he'd inspired my career, and really sort of getting to that point of like, okay, I got to do something that is going to get me noticed somewhere. So I bought tickets. I bought front row, right side, because that's where he always plays. Oh, yeah. Get to Seattle, get to the venue, and all of a sudden I see the piano on the other side of the stage. So I went to the manager and I'm going, hi, so I brought front row seats, right, so that I could see where, you know, John's playing. And now all I'm going to be seeing is, you know, this back of this beautiful 9-foot Steinway, and, you know, his big frame sort of popping through and, you know, playing. But that's not what I wanted. And they said, well, it's, you know, it's a 9-foot Steinway, and it's very difficult to move, and the stage isn't very big. And here's what it is. We're a jazz club, so our piano always stays on the left-hand side, because that's what our audience is used to seeing. Yeah. So it was funny when I got a chance to meet him after the show, and I said, I'm a huge fan. You know, I just came back from a national concert tour in China, and you were totally responsible for my entire career. I got to ask you, in the 25 years that I've been following, this is the first time you flipped the piano around And the first time that I bought front row seat, what's the deal, man? And it's a funny story now because, this is, that's how I got to meet John Tesh. And we, he invited me for coffee the next day, and we chatted about, our love of guitars. And, he's a big fan of Rick Wakeman, and that's where his inspiration comes from. But being able to meet somebody like that, and then at the end of it, he says in that big booming voice, well, let me give you my telephone number so that we can stay in touch. Now all of a sudden the guy that inspired me is somebody that I can text or talk to, and has been, very kind to call me the greatest piano player that he knows. So, but it all goes back to that left and right, piano thing. I don't think it would have been as interesting a meeting per se if there wasn't that sort of fun bit. It's like, I bought front row seats, man. What are you doing? Well, first time in 25 years that he decides to, literally, first time in 25 years he decides to flip the piano around is the day that I go and see the show.
Yeah.
I'm sure somebody has done that. Actually, no, I know somebody that came to my show and said, I bought seats on this side because I know in your theater all the piano players play on that side. And they said, well, the artist decided to move the piano around. They went, oh, well, in that case, it's all right. As long as it's the artist doing it and not any of the stage crew or tech crew or any of that sort of stuff, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, then there must be a reason for it. Yeah.
No, I see that. Yeah. And it's funny I have a tough time having the piano the opposite way, like you were saying, playing, if you're playing on stage right, then, because I'm so used to doing it your way, it feels really odd to me the other way around. It'd be like a, right-handed drummer sitting behind a left-handed drum kit. It's that you're so used to one way, it doesn't feel right the other way around. So, but yeah.
Well, and for me, I've caught myself a couple of times where I'm so used to being on stage left that I know to look left to look at the audience. And if I'm stuck on the other side, there've been a few times where I'm just like, I'm playing and I look over and I was like, oh, that's the screen. No, audience is over there. It's like, they're like, what is he looking at? We're over here.
Yeah. So how did you actually get into playing piano? What was the whole reason why you chose the piano?
It was grade 5. We were in music class. We were in choir class, and the lady that was the piano accompanist play these songs that we be singing to, and I remember just being enamored and just mesmerized by the sound that was coming out of the instrument. So I remember one class afterwards, I said, I'd love to learn how to play the piano. Would you teach me? And she says, I don't teach, but I can recommend somebody. And I said, I really love the song that you're playing. Can you give me the sheet music for it? And I very quickly got a lesson in copyright and photocopying and all that sort of stuff. Well, we really shouldn't, and blah blah blah. At the end of the week, she handed me a manila folder, and she's like, "You didn't get this from me." I opened it up, and it was the sheet music from that song. And so I went home and I said to my parents, I want to take up piano, and that's how it started. And what's really cool is that when I released my last album, I released 2 pieces of sheet music that go along with that are for solo pieces, Reverence, and Some of the Heroes. And what I did as a way to thank her for that spark of inspiration many years ago is I sent her that sheet music. We still keep in touch and we're friends on Facebook, and she's really fantastic. She's into my shows, every one of them that I've done here in Canada. And so it was really cool to get a photo back from her at her piano with my sheet music on it, because it started with, her playing in class and me being mesmerized with that, and her giving me the sheet music. And now it's now there's that really cool full circle moment that's happened. So that's really special.
That's cool. And you grew up in the Czech Republic, right?
I was born in the Czech Republic and grew up in Edmonton.
Yeah. So how did that move happen?
No, well, that move happened through a couple of different things. I was born into a musical journalist family. So my mom was a journalist and my dad was a very popular singer in the Czech Republic, folk type of music, sort of like John Denver.
Yeah.
And my mom was a cultural journalist, so she would cover jazz festivals and, concert performances. And she, back then, in her career, she interviewed the likes of like Ella Fitzgerald and Duke Ellington, any of these sort of big names that were coming through. But, at the time, the Czech Republic was, had the Communist Party as the governing body. And there was something that happened that I remember, they basically went to my dad and said, if you do one more concert, you're basically going to jail. Because there was that whole thing of, performers were sort of viewed as, people are going to your concerts and you can subliminally say in your songs or whatever sort of thing about, move against the government. So, in a sort of roundabout Sound of Music way, we left the Czech Republic in 86, went and lived in Germany for 3 years, where my mom's mom, my grandma, lived. And, we stayed there for a couple of years before immigrating to Canada. And Edmonton was chosen because we had, friends there from the Czech Republic that sponsored our immigration. So yeah, Czech born, Edmonton raised, Vancouver based.
Nice. Did you move to Edmonton in the summer or the winter?
It was in May, so it was warm.
Yeah.
But I definitely do remember my first winter. That's one thing that people here give me a hard time about, because it's like, it's 2 degrees and I'm like, oh, it's cold. They're like, what are you talking about? You used to live in Edmonton. It was freezing. It was minus 32. And I said, yeah, but I was younger. I had hair.
Yeah.
And you have no idea how much heat you lose when you don't have hair. Like, well, put on a toque. But the thing is that in Vancouver, it's that wet cold, right? Like it gets into your bones. And whereas in Edmonton, it was just cold and dry. Like it was minus 31. The wind chill, it'd be like minus 38 and whatever. But it would be dry. And I still remember getting on the bus to go to school, and the temperature difference between waiting outside for 5 minutes and getting onto that bus resulted in sitting down and having a nosebleed.
Yeah.
So it's, it's very different. But I've been in Vancouver now for almost 17 years. I've gone back to Edmonton a couple of times. There was once many years ago where I had to fly in January, and I remember coming out of the airport, and all of a sudden the wind just hits you, and all of a sudden it's like, I felt like I had gotten Botox or something, because there's so much moisture here in Vancouver, and then you get there and it's like, okay, I can't move my face.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, I know. It's a different cold. I mean, I've done so many shows in Edmonton and in the wintertime mostly. But I remember once there and leaving my hotel, I figured I wanted to get something to eat, and I just wanted to go maybe a block to pick something up. And,
Nope.
and I remember walking out. It's like, it was minus 45 or 50 or something. And I remember walking, and I was like, yeah, it's fine. And I got about half a block. And then all of a sudden I was like, you just froze. Like everything just seized up. And I was like, all of a sudden I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
It's like turn around and got back, didn't make it. Because it was so darn cold. And then we've all, a lot of us touring have been there, but yeah, just taking an hour drive down the road before your car starts warming up. And
well, yeah. And I mean, I remember going to school in jeans and a sweater and wearing a ski suit over top, so that you can, while you're waiting for the bus, and then you get onto the bus and you're roasting hot, and how you have a nosebleed, and then you get out and you go to the school, and by the time you walk to the school, you get inside and you start sweating. So by the time you got, your snow boots and all your stuff hung up and everything, you're in class, is like, wow, okay, I feel disgusting.
Yeah. My friend always says, yeah, you out west, especially because it's so dry, he says, oh yeah, you got to blow your nose with a crowbar. That's true. So what are you looking at now for, do you plan 5 years down the road and kind of have a plan? Or obviously COVID is messed up a lot of our plans, but what do you foresee for yourself just down the road a little bit?
I don't know if I don't know if I really do look that sort of, what's your 5-year plan? Where you're going to be in 10 years type of thing, because thankfully I haven't had to interview in a while for, a position where somebody asks me that. No. COVID has been interesting in the fact that it's allowed me to explore, some projects that I've been wanting to do for a while. So, last summer I recorded a solo piano album and wrote a book that goes along with that. And so that project is done, and that'll get released, before the next tour happens, which we're hopeful, in terms of the conversations that I've had with my agents in China, that'll happen in 2022, either in the summer or the fall of it. The reason that I don't like to necessarily look ahead too far is because if I look back in terms of what I did, and I said to myself, I'm going to do this debut concert with the $35,000 risk and the 20-piece orchestra and the live recording and everything like that. And 5 years from now, I'm going to have a PBS special with the Boston Pops and John Williams conducting. That's a huge leap to get to.
Yeah.
Everything that I've done, Darren, has been, I take the risk and I take the chance and I put it out there. And the universe leads it in a certain direction. If you had said to me, you're going to take this risk, you're going to do this album, it's going to be nominated for Outstanding Instrumental at back then it was the Prairie Music Awards, now it's Breakout West, and you're going to get a 16-city national concert tour of China, I would have been like, yeah, that's really cool. But I also would have been like, I don't know if that's, that's realistic.
Yeah.
Right. For me, the whole idea of throwing the rock into that pond was to get known in Canada and in the States. That didn't happen. It rippled completely somewhere on the other side of the planet where, my market has been for the past 20 years. And when we go back to talking before about, you got to do it somewhere else in order to be taken seriously here, there are still places where, people have said to me, we don't know about booking you in a 200-seat venue because we don't know what our audience would think. I'm like, yeah, but you just had a piano guy in here, 6 months ago that is playing covers. And they're like, yeah, but he's playing covers. He's playing Elton John or he's playing David Foster stuff or whatever. The audience knows that.
Yeah.
And so, those big tours overseas don't always translate to here. Yeah. Richard Clayderman was hugely, famous in Europe and North America, in the 70s and 80s. And now the majority of his market is, in Asia. He does 30 to 35 city tours there in China twice a year. And, most people in his native France don't know who he is anymore because he doesn't perform there. So for me, I'm looking at, okay, so what am I doing right now, or what am I working on that allows me to sort of come out of the gate running once COVID is over and we sort of go back to work. And so the last sort of 6 months I've been trying to figure out sort of, okay, am I going to sort of keep the same show, or how am I going to retool it so that when we do go back on tour, that is it going to be completely new? Is it going to be all new music? Is it going to be, sort of a combination of the two? But I mean, I know there's stuff that I want to do, and I look at those as sort of big pipe dream type of things, right? Like I'd love to do an outdoor show with an orchestra that I can film and sell to CBC or PBS or somebody like that.
Yeah.
But getting the backing for that is immensely challenging. I put in a massive Creative BC grant for a project, and they declined it. Same project, Canada Council also declined. Same project, Factor also declined. And when I look at all of those, even though I've done it before and I spent the time to do it, and I answer all the questions and I dot all the I's and answer to all of their specific needs, I can tell you from each one of them why it didn't work. For Factor, it's not commercial enough. For Canada Council, it's too commercial. And for Creative BC, it doesn't meet X, Y, Z reasons in terms of, yes, you're established elsewhere, but here you're sort of considered emerging, but not. And so it's, it's always constantly having to find that sort of space of, where does that fit in? That sort of goes back to what we were talking about before about, if Frank Mills wrote Music Box Dancer now, could it have the same impact that it did, many years ago? Yeah. Could Tesh have walked away from Entertainment Tonight if he did Red Rocks now? Yanni had Linda Evans that backed his project for Acropolis because she was a very famous, television actress.
Yeah.
David Foster had the hit with, the Winter Olympic Games and St. Elmo's Fire. But when you think of David Foster now, you think producer to stars like Barbra Streisand, Celine Dion, and, those types of people.
Yeah.
So, the industry is constantly changing. I don't know where we're going to go in terms of music stability or being able to make an income from things such as streaming, especially when places like Spotify pay, 0.0073 per stream.
Yeah.
It's a different marketplace and it's constantly changing. And when people can listen to your music on Spotify and can either listen to it for free or with a subscription, why would they buy an album for $10 off your website?
Yeah.
The only thing that I can think of why people would buy CDs these days or music these days is if they come to your show, they can buy the CD and you either signed for them after the show, or it's the only place that they can get an autographed album. So for me, looking forward, obviously I want to keep performing and expand into, other markets, which is work that I started before, sort of COVID shut everything down. And this year will be a lot about, laying the groundwork in terms of that and expanding into that. But where I want to see myself in 5 years or, what that sort of goal looks like, is not something that I like to answer anymore, only because what I've learned from my experience is taking that pebble and throwing it into a pond and just letting that ripple do its thing is the best approach, because you can have the best laid plans and, something in the world will happen. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, got to retreat and, come back approaching this from a different direction.
Yeah, I totally get that. Interesting a few things you said there, and, kind of going back to Factor and all those type of things. And it's interesting. A lot of those programs are set up to really help people who, need the help to some degree, as far as, maybe they're in a class that's not as commercial as the other one. For me, those are the reasons that you fund artists. Not necessarily, I've seen a lot of people get funded and I'm thinking, why did they get funded? They already have 5 hit albums, but Factor's backing another one. The mandate of that seems pretty backwards. But it's there and it helps, it helps people and it's worked. But I think what a lot of people think, the premise behind it and really what happens are two completely different things. All those things. And especially now with COVID and, all these grants and stuff are happening now, that it's a disaster. And I've gone through a bunch of them, and, just the reasons of being turned down is remarkable. I mean, just mind boggling. It's a whole 3-part mini series podcast just to go through that. But yeah, I mean, you just keep forging ahead and like you said, you you just never know what one day leads into another day. And that's the best way to look at it. Let's wrap up on a couple of quick questions. How
Sure.
I usually like to wrap up. It's been a great conversation. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too.
One of the questions I always like to ask artists is there a venue out there that you haven't performed at that's on the top of your list that you've always wanted to perform at?
Indoor or outdoor?
Doesn't matter. Venue, city, country.
Oof. Wow, that's a good one. I would love to do a concert at the Great Wall of China.
Oh, that'd be cool. That's a first. I haven't heard that one yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I have this great illustration here that that a local guy did here of sort of the last 30 years of things that have really sort of tied together the fabric of my life and my music. And one of them is an illustration of me, playing on the Great Wall of China with all these fans sort of coming around. I would say, before when I said it's like, the outdoor venues that guys like Tesh and Yanni picked, they're great. They're beautiful to those places. I would say, yeah, Martin May live at the Great Wall of China with the Beijing Symphony Orchestra.
That'd be awesome. That's
conducted by John Williams.
There you go. Cool.
There's a wish list in 5 years. Can we make that happen?
Why not, right?
BDC Canada, here I come.
Perfect. Last question, food related.
Yes.
This could be hometown or travels. If there's that one, either I would like to say either food item or that amazing restaurant when you've traveled to say, okay, I can't wait to get back there. Do you have one of those places or a particular food item you have to go to?
Well, here's the problem with that question is that I love to cook.
Yeah.
And when I say I love to cook, I'm talking about like Julia Child's Boeuf Bourguignon, the one that takes 6 hours to make, the one that you get that, that really good bottle of Burgundy to make. Yeah. Like I love to cook. I've had friends say, you should apply to MasterChef or MasterChef Canada or something like that. I'm like, yeah, but I don't like the pressure of those shows or Hell's Kitchen, having scallops thrown at my head. That's one thing that I find hilarious. 17 years in, you think that the people that are going on these shows would take take 2 months and learn how to make scallops at home before you go on the show. Favorite place or favorite food?
Let's narrow it down. Touring wise.
Yeah.
What's the best place you've been to eat on tour?
China. Any of the food there, it can be a hole in the wall at 2:00 in the morning, and it is some of the best food that I've ever had. Like it just blows any of it out of the water. I'm a big fan of Italian food.
Yeah.
But if I had to think about like really going anywhere and having something that brings comfort and that idea of going home or feeling at home, my mom, God bless her soul, isn't with us anymore. But if I could, do anything, I would want to go home and have her cook me one of my favorites. Second best to that would be going back to Prague and, having one of those childhood meals where, it's all dumplings with roast beef and sauce that, people have said to me, you're a Czech guy and their food is very heavy and it's very based with, dumplings and sauce. How are you not a heavy guy? I said, well, here's a fun fact. I'm a musician that doesn't drink. I don't drink coffee. I don't smoke and I don't do drugs. Now you can call me non-offensive.
Holy crap, you're non-offensive. No.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. No, that's a good way to travel anyways. Yeah, and that'll keep you that'll keep you fit and healthy for sure.
When you do something like 20 shows in 27 days, and I mean, I turned 40 last year, and I feel like I'm really my 30s were a lot better than my 20s for sure, but I feel like I'm really now growing into the person that I am. And when you have a schedule where for 11 days you're in a different city, a different venue, a different hotel, I can't imagine the idea of going out and drinking myself under the table and then trying to get onto a plane or a tour bus in the morning and doing that for 11 days.
You have to
in a row.
It catches up to you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's and it takes a special type of person to be able to do that. I mean, you just got to be able to handle that type of stress load and travel schedule. And I love that. I mean, I can just get up and do 60 days in a row and I'm happy. But
I should take you on tour with me next time.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. I could just go. But it's because it's something you really love, right? You're looking forward to getting to that next place and the challenges of what that's going to bring and then presenting a show and all that. So it kind of keeps you driving all the time. So, which is kind of neat. Well, what's the best way for people to watch and listen and buy what you do and stay in touch with you? What's the best way to do that?
Best way is martinmayermusic.com, all one word. Facebook.com/I am Martin Mayer, and same thing with Instagram, Instagram.com/I am Martin Mayer. Those are the best ways to find me. And yeah, if there's people that are looking to get into music or people that are studying piano that have questions, I'm very interactive. Shoot me a message, send me a DM. I love inspiring the next generation of musicians, and the tip that I'll sort of leave out there for people who might be listening that are either studying piano or parents who want their kids to study piano. The best advice that I have is if your child comes to you and says, I want to learn this instrument, completely encourage them. If you're the one that is going to your child and say you should learn piano, it won't work the same way. The reason that it worked for me and the reason that my parents were so supportive is because I was the one that said, this interests me, this excites me. That's why it's always stuck, because it was something that I inherently wanted from the beginning. Yeah,
I totally get that. And I'm a big advocate for especially because I started playing when I was 4, but I wanted to, right? And I played the fiddle. My grandpa played the fiddle, and that's what I wanted to do. So I had a purpose for it, and there was a meaning behind it. But I've seen lots of people just they want their kids to do it, and there's not this. They may end up being really great. There's always that chance, but it's never the same as someone who just really wants to do it from a young age and does it. So. Well, it's been a great conversation, and I look forward to seeing more stuff from you in the future. And hopefully one of these days when we're traveling again, I get back out to Vancouver, or if you're this way, that we'll be able to connect and hang out. That'd be fun.
That'd be great. Thanks for having me, dear.
Yeah, well, hang on, and I'll say a proper goodbye, but we'll just let you go for now. And thanks for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.